Hello, my name is Jackie Laws and I'm going to tell you about the third year module English Grammar and Lexis. This module is an option module at part 3 and it is attended by the BA English Language students who have already completed LS3GRL English Grammar as a core module at part 2. The aim of this module is to really build on the skills that you developed in part 2, and as before we're looking at grammar from a functional perspective, which essentially means looking at the relationship between meaning and function, or function and form, and how different contexts can influence this. So, as before, we're going to be looking at this relationship between syntax and semantics, and in addition to the theoretical framework we've looked at before, we'll also be looking at the topics of cognitive linguistics and construction grammar. The sort of thing that we'll be doing in this module is thinking about the meaning of various expressions and words. So, for example, if we take the pair of sentences, Fred loaded the cart with hay, and Fred loaded hay onto the cart, here we see that exactly the same words are used, but they're in a different order. And if you think about it, they have actually slightly different meanings, and it's this difference in meaning that we will be exploring. Another example of this is the following pair of sentences: Sue threw Pat the ball, and Sue threw the ball to Pat. Again, they have overall the same meaning, but actually there is a different implication that we can extract from the two forms of this sentence. Another example at the word level is why it is in English that we can say teeth marks with a plural teeth, but we can't say claws marks. Again, we're going to be exploring why that's feasible in English to say teeth marks but not claws marks. Another example is that in English we have a way of construing sentences such as Fred danced across the road. That's perfectly acceptable in English, but in other languages like French and Italian you couldn't possibly say that sentence. What you'd have to say is Fred crossed the road dancing. So again, we're going to be looking at these types of pairs of sentences and understanding really what's different about them and why it should be that some languages can use one form but not the other. Here in English we can actually use both, but we prefer the first one. And finally, following on from something that we covered at part 2, is why is it that we can say Fred is being very foolish today, but we can't say Fred is being very tall today. So those are the types of comparisons we're going to be looking at and exploring the theoretical background behind why these sentences have different meanings or they're not possible to say in English. So to summarize overall, at the word level we'll be looking at lexical aspect, which we covered at part 2. Compound words is a new topic. Complex words, we did cover some derivational morphology at part 2, but we'll be taking this much further. We'll also be exploring the noun phrase and the genitive phrase, like Fred's parents and the boy's parents, in much more detail, and we'll be doing that in the parsing as well. Also, we'll be looking at other noun phrases, like the difference between living standards and living creatures. At the clause level, again, we will be doing parsing, continuing from part 2, exploring more complex clause structures, and also alternation patterns, as we've seen in the example before. Sue threw Pat the ball and Sue threw the ball to Pat. And at sentence level, in our parsing, we'll be including relative clauses. And in addition we'll be looking at discourse syntax and what is the function of constructing a sentence such as on the horizon appeared the ship, when the ship is the subject but is the last item in the clause. So to give you an overview of the module, weeks 1 to 9 involve lectures and seminar type discussions, 2 hours each. In week 10 we'll have a mock parsing test and then a parsing test in week 11. The passing test constitutes 20% of all the marks of this 20 credit module, and the exam involves writing 2 exam questions, and the exam constitutes 80% of the module marks. And here are some introductory texts which will be made available on Blackboard. Some of these you'll be familiar with, but in addition there will be recent research papers which we'll be exploring for each week as well. Okay, that is the complete overview of the module. Thank you very much.